What up? What up? What up? Trying out this new camera. Just got a new webcam and hooking it up to the mic here. So if you guys can hear me, let me know. Is the quality good? Is the sound good? On this episode for today, it's regarding looks maxing. I'm an 18-year-old and I think looks maxing is dumb. Yeah, we're about to get into it, man, and how it really is a problem, right? Because it is an issue. And I believe that young men today are very obsessed with their looks. Matter of fact, when I began doing these little shorts, that was one of the first things that I talked about was looks maxing, right? What does it look like? Or what is the obsession with looks maxing? Because it feels like um, young men today are more obsessed with their looks than their personality or just being a better person overall, right? And I'm not super old either, but I'm also not young. I'm not with the in crowd anymore. Thank you, sir. Thank you, thank you. Just to give you you know, details. I'm 39. So I am way older than a lot of these guys that are out there doing this stuff. So um, I don't ever really recall. I mean, there was some folks who did, right, who did deal with being all obsessed with their looks, but I don't remember being that person myself ever. I mean, of course, you took care of yourself. Like I said, you groomed yourself. Just got myself a little fake today, so of course, you got to take care of yourself in a way. But to the point where you were obsessed with your looks, I don't think I ever got to that point, right? So, looks maxing today, they say that it encourages self improvement, but it really becomes an obsession, right? And to some extent, it even causes some harm, self harm. And one of these figures today is Clavicular, right? This individual, I think he's 20 years old, who is out there getting drunk, getting high, smashing his face, literally smashing his face to fix his jawline. What I don't know what he's doing with his face, right? But this guy is literally creating content, just being a total douchebag, being super ridiculous out there, right? And it's it's a problem, yeah. Clavicular has officially become, yes, he has. Yes, he has, right? I think he made it to the news. And this guy's really young. I think he's about 20 years old, but he is the looks maxing, I guess, icon, right? So what does it mean to looks max, right? So it began as grooming again. Grooming should not be a problem. You should be able to take care of yourself. But some of these guys are going over the top. Look, I'll be honest. If this was my time, if this was happening during my time, this would be called feminine or gay. Just being real honest with you, this would not be accepted by most men. Right today, it is the complete opposite. Looks like men are more obsessed with their looks than women are, from what I'm seeing. And men are trying to use that approach of using looks to attract women. Look, it does work, right? Obviously, women are going to be attracted to good looking men. That's not the issue. The problem, though, is that a lot of these men have no personality. They don't know how to talk to women at all. They do not know how to talk to women at all. So they rely on their looks to be able to attract a woman, but have zero game, as they would say back in the day, right? And some of these techniques or obsessions, again, deal with like your facial details, the jaw angles, the eye tilt, bone structure. It's like a science experiment. It's it's ridiculous, right? But the problem with this is that it creates a nothing is ever good enough type of mindset, which at the end of the day is it tells me you have low self-esteem because you are constantly trying to improve your physical features to look a certain way, and that's a problem, right? That is an issue, in my opinion, that you are so focused on your face that you are willing to destroy it, right? Again, it becomes very obsessive and unhealthy. It begins as comparing yourself to other people, right? And you're rating people. I know that folks today are obsessed with ratings. And look, I've used them. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I've been a victim of that, or guilty of using ratings, right? Myself. But I think that goes back to my time, probably even longer than that. But today, like, it is an obsession where men want to be rated by other men. It's a little weird to me. Like you ask another man, what do you rate me out of 10? I don't get it. I don't get what that's about. So men are comparing themselves to other men on their looks mainly, right? And there's a hyper focus on flaws, on things that most people do not notice, right? Again, this is usually very common with females, with women, not so much with men, right? At least historically. But these younger men are now doing this, which is again a little weird to me. And there is this anxiety and low self-worth and social withdrawal because of this, right? That's what's happening. You would think that these men would be more confident, would be more willing to talk to women, but that is not the case. It is the complete opposite. They are so obsessed with their looks that they become anxious, which is again really, really interesting to me. And this type of behavior, right, promotes extreme and dangerous practices. For example, the bone smashing thing, right? Literally hitting your face with a hammer, and people using steroids, hormones, or any kind of substances that are not regulated, cosmetic procedures without medical oversight. And again, for what? To be able to look max? That's weird to me, right? And there's no evidence of this. There's no scientific evidence that any of these methods, right, uh, will work. And there's real risk of injury. That to me is the issue, right? And when you ask yourself, where or what is this rooted in? Where does it come from? What is the issue? It didn't come from self help. It came from incel slash black pill culture, forums, rigid, pessimistic beliefs about dating and women. And the idea that looks are everything and personality barely matters. That type of mindset traps guys into a defeatist, cynical mindset. And that's the issue, right? Again, the black pill, the incel culture has convinced men that women will not give you a chance unless you are a 10 out of 10, right? So men who are not 10 out of 10 are doing these things just like women would do back in the day or are still doing it. Cosmetic surgery, fake butts, right? Extensions, all those little things. Men are not doing that. They're still pieces of crap, right? Inside. They still have no game with women. And they think this is going to work long term. And if it does work with somebody, if it does work with a woman, that woman has no value in my eyes, no substance. If a woman just sees you as valuable for your looks, that is to me not the right one for you, in my opinion. You know? So this guy, Clavicular, is the issue, right? Again, he pushes this extreme behavior as normal. It's not normal, guys, at all. He promotes using illegal drugs for weight loss and for body modification. He encourages drastic, sometimes even reckless appearance changes. And again, this will normalize this self destructive behavior as self improvement, y'all. Amazing to me. Right. And again, what is the real life consequence of doing this? Or what are we seeing right now? Recently, this guy was hospitalized because he was overdosed. He overdosed, I think, on a club or something like that. During a live stream, too. During a live stream. And he did admit to doing, drugs as a coping mechanism, which is not a good thing. And that's not just a controversy, right? That's a case study in where this mindset can lead, where it can go if you do not have control over it, right? And the problem with this is that this is influencing vulnerable young men. So teen boys are dealing with insecurity. Guys who are struggling with dating or identity, instead of healthy guidance, they're exposed to this. These extreme standards of do whatever it takes mentality, a belief that looks determined your entire life. That's the issue, right? That this guy is encouraging these types of men to do this. And it blurs self-improvement with self-destruction. So the critics will say that his content crosses a line from grooming to obsession, from discipline to harm, from confidence to desperation. That's the issue. And this is the real takeaway, guys. Looksmaxing taps into something real. Men feel pressure to be attractive. Dating apps amplify superficial judgment. Many guys, they don't feel chosen or valued because of this. But instead of solving that, it exaggerates the problem, offers extreme solutions, ignores skills, purpose, and character. That is the problem, y'all. So the balanced truth is not everything about looksmaxing is bad, right? That's what somebody would say. Those who are for looksmaxing. It does teach you grooming, fitness, style, I guess, right? Taking care of yourself. The problem, though, is the obsession. Your identity is tied to your looks. Your self-worth is tied to your looks. This risky behavior is tied to your looks. That is the problem, y'all. That is the issue with looksmaxing. Right? So, what's the bottom line? What am I trying to get to? Looksmaxing, especially in the form that is pushed by influencers like Clavicular, can distort how men see themselves. It can push them toward extreme and harmful behavior. It can reduce life to appearance alone. So yes, you can improve your looks, and that's fine. But believing that your entire value depends on them, that's where things can go sideways. That is the issue. That is the problem. So if you are a young man today who subscribes to this type of mindset or behavior, it's a problem. It is an issue. And I would say to you guys, focus more on your personality as a man. Who are you really, aside from your looks? And look, I'll be honest, I've been guilty of this, right? I've had conversations with people regarding the hierarchy of looks because it exists. I will be honest about that. Good looking people do have an easier time in life. I get this. I completely understand that. So I'm not going to, sit here and tell you that looks don't matter because they do matter. They definitely do matter, right? And I can see this guy in the chat just laughing. He's having a good day today. They matter, right? I get that. But guys, that is not your entire personality, y'all. That is not all who you are. You are more than that. And for us men, right? Our looks, the way we see women, how we value them, right? Generally speaking, is not the same way they value us. So you can spend all this time and going to the gym, fixing your jawline, hitting it, deforming it, taking drugs, all of these things, right? You can do all that. But how are you developing your character? What are you doing to develop your character? Where is the line? That's a great question. Where is the line? The line is when you become obsessed with these things, right? If you have to break your jaw, right? If you got to break your jaw to do that, that is obsession. That is a problem. How can I develop my character? That is an excellent question by Rangitan. He has been on fire today. Rangitan, how do you develop your character? Well, you got to take some L's first, right? And these guys who are looksmaxing don't want to lose. They want to play life on easy mode. You don't build character until you lose. You don't learn how to win until you lose. So if you want to appreciate the good things in life, you have to take L's. This is why I said earlier today, young men today should be spending their time from as soon as they become adults to about age 30 building themselves. And what does that look like? Yes, some of this stuff from Looksmaxing can be applied, again, not to an obsessive way, but it's more than just looking good. It's building your character, right? We all come with trauma, things happen to us as kids. Are you addressing that during this time? What is going to make you marriageable long term? Not what is going to make you attractive to women, because you can be attractive to many women, but you are not compatible with every single woman on this planet, on this earth. What is going to make you a man that somebody wants to marry, that somebody can trust, that somebody can depend on? What the hell do your looks have to do with that? What are they going to do for you when your wife is sick or needs somebody to take care of her? How is Looksmaxing going to help you there? Right? these guys who looks max, and they do this early enough, will not be humble individuals, will not be good people, in my opinion. People on top of the hierarchy are not going to care about other people. So this isn't going to help you. It's going to help you short term. You might have some success in the game or whatever, right? But this guy, you're already seeing signs of this being a very quick end. And the sad part about it, about this whole thing, is that he has people around him who are not helping him out. If you see some of these videos of him drugged out, overdosing, they're watching him do it. We're just watching the guy go and do these things without a care in the world, all for clicks, for likes. And these are older men. If I was in his circle, I would not allow him to do that at all. So, what does developing a character look like? What I just said. Knowing how to appreciate the little things in life. Because when you find the girl, the woman that you want to marry, these are the things you're going to look at. You know, can you see yourself with this person long term? And yes, again, of course, I will be lying to you if I don't care about looks. I obviously do. But that's not all I care about. Right? In conversations with people that I trust, I make this very clear. Yes, looks attract, but I'm looking for personality in a person. If I'm a young man today and I'm developing myself and I'm looking for a lifelong partner, a wife, the looks are going to attract me, right? Sure, of course. I'm not going to lie to you. But once I talk to this woman, what about this woman has substance? What about her is going to make me want to stay with her? And if I can't find that, and I'm 25, 26, 27, 28 years old, I will not engage. Man, if you're going to date to marry. Don't date just for the sake of dating, for the sake of acquiring bodies. Because let's face it, a lot of you guys out there who got bodies, you got a bunch of people that you don't even care about, that half the time you were not even attracted to. You were just drunk out of your mind. You didn't care. But because of your low self-esteem, you added them to your collection of bodies to tell yourself that you're good enough. Because you don't even believe it. You need somebody else to tell you that you are good enough as a person. Think about that. So don't even do that. If you're going to do that, right, at least make it meaningful. And be honest. Don't be traumatizing women because you have low self-esteem. Don't be using their bodies because you cannot love yourself. And this is what I'm talking about, developing character and applying yourself. Those things matter because at the end of the day, when you become a marriageable man or want to marry, if you do not address that, and if you don't have the right woman to have patience with you regarding that, then you're in for a long ride, buddy. And you better be lucky, and you better pray that this woman is going to tolerate that. Because most, are not going to. They're not going to care to deal with your traumas. So from 18 to 30 years old, you should be applying yourself, working on your issues, stacking up your finances, applying your skills, make yourself marketable, become a man of value, a man of substance, somebody that a woman wants to marry. And I said this earlier, right? Pick somebody between ages 18 and 24. And why do I say this? Because women during this time, they are less traumatized. They are more open to your leadership if you are a good leader. Because what happens is when a woman hits a certain age and she's been traumatized or she has not had a positive male role model, she's not going to follow you. She's not going to. So if you want to have influence on that woman, right? First of all, you need to be somebody who is influential as a man, not just your looks. Again, that's part of it. But what's the substance as a man that makes you valuable, that makes somebody want to follow you? Why would I want to follow you as a woman? Ask yourself that question. Why would I submit to you, to your leadership? So during this age, this range, right, you can find that. I'm not saying that you can't find it later or you cannot get married later, right? I'm not saying that women are cooked after 24. No, that's not what I'm saying. If you find a woman in that range, right, and you have access to her, I'm not talking about her body, I'm talking about, being in her life, being influential in her life. By the time you guys get married, let's say she's 30 years old, right? But she's known you since she was 18 or 20 years old, whatever. You have established a relationship with this woman. You have established influence over this woman. And now both of you guys have built something that can last. But if you spent years 18 to 30 just stacking up bodies, now working on yourself, doing drugs, by the time you're 30 years old and you want to marry somebody, you have no right to ask for a modest woman. Because what the hell have you done? As a man, what have you done to earn that? Right? Some of you might get lucky and get one. But if you do, you better start doing the work there and then, buddy. You better start doing it because they're not going to stay with you. Right? So that's all I wanted to say today. Thank you, Rangitan, for the comments. This was not a planned live. We just have convos and then things happen. And then you know what? I wanted to try out my new camera. And I think this is as emotional as I've gotten on this channel. And I'm not upset or anything like that. I just wanted to bring out a little different part of me that I think is worth it. But on that note, thank you again for watching my lives. Hopefully this stuff helps you out. And if not, cool, drop a comment. Peace out, y'all.